Welcome to the motherfucking lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. More of Clarissa Shields doubling down on her original assertion that she would beat Rolly in a boxing match, saying, "Rolly, I just know I can beat him. I know you're unorthodox and you're strong, but you can't box better than me. I know I can beat Rolly. Hands down." What's the virtue of constantly saying this while doing the rounds on the podcasts if it is so ill-received? I mean, most boxing fans don't even think Rolly's that good. So do you think you're saying something by saying that you can beat him? Or do you think anybody's gonna look at this and think to themselves how cute it is?
It's not.
And now she's not stopping at Rolly. She's also added Teofimo Lopez to the mix as they are fighting this weekend. She said, "I would do what Shakur did against Teo. He is easy work."
Him too?
Twitter user who goes by the name Big Bangladesh reacted to it by saying, "Clarissa is losing me as a supporter. She's just been saying the most non-believable, delusional things, and she doesn't even have to. Her resume can do all the talking, but she just won't let it."
Because she won't shut the fuck up.
Telling you, a lot of guys, just like Big Bangladesh, are looking at this and thinking, well, of course you're going to say that to them. They're not at liberty to respond. They can't really defend themselves. They can't turn around and say, "Keep my name out of your mouth, or I'm going to slap the shit out of you."
As it is generally frowned upon for men to strike women, even when the women provoke the men.
If you're so big and bad, why are you looking at Rolly? And why are you looking at Teo? Two guys who started out at, 135? Moved up to 140, now Teo's making his way up to 147. You never campaigned there. If you really want to prove you're big and bad, call out the people at your own weights where you campaign. 160, 175, heavyweight.
How do you like your chances against the heavyweight, Clarissa?
Because near as I can tell, you're looking at guys who are noticeably smaller than you are because of a perceived size advantage you think you have. You think it will help when either Rolly or Teo, they don't have to hit you but once. One good time. It doesn't take away from why you're doing what you're doing. You think you're targeting the low-hanging fruit. When those two boys, they don't gotta crack you but one good time on the jaw, and you go out. You go down.
Doesn't even have to be on the jaw. It could be to the body.
In this mixed-up era of identity politics, it sort of falls into the background that women generally don't carry around as much muscle, as much padding as men do.
Men are built to take abuse.
But what Clarissa's walking around with, most of that weight, is just water and fat. How do you think she can toggle from 168 up to 175, back down to 160?
It's water and fat.
Not muscle, because if you were losing muscle every time you fluctuated in weight like the guys do, you wouldn't be able to move up and down as much. So if what you're thinking is you can absorb clean punches from either a Rolly Romero or a Teofimo Lopez, you've got another thing coming.
Do you think that she really believes that?
I'm not completely sure, because on the other side of that coin, she's making these call-outs and going after these guys publicly with no real expectation that a fight will happen. So is she doing this because she believes she can win, or is she only doing it because she believes nothing will happen?
Look at who she's doing it to.
For a number of years, she was doing it to Jake Paul, a social media influencer, then Keith Thurman, a quasi-retired fighter who was seldom ever in the ring the last 5 years, then Rolly, now Teo.
What do you notice?
But every single one of those guys, she's taken the liberty of trashing publicly without any provocation. What do you notice about all of them?
They're not black.
Count on me to say the quiet part out loud, because I've noticed the pattern in her behaviors and how she never seems to say any of this about somebody who might oblige her.
Like the Charlo brothers?
They've got a reputation for putting their hands on women, but Clarissa never has anything to say about them, and they campaign at the same weights as her. And what about Gervonta?
Who's got a bigger reputation in boxing for putting his hands on women than Gervonta Davis and his numerous run-ins with the law over the same thing, domestic abuse? Odd that she doesn't say that much about him. She doesn't call him out and challenge him.
She seems to challenge guys that she doesn't think are going to say anything, and guys who don't have Gervonta Davis's reputation for domestic abuse. I would think that if you really believed you can beat a man, you would go after him. Why go after them?
Because if she went after him, he might actually entertain her. Hell, it might actually result in a fight.
Just slap the lace front off of her.
The fake eyelashes and the 7 layers of foundation.
So while she's trying to look big and bad, I noticed that she only ever says this shit to guys that ain't gonna say nothing because they're too mature. they're gonna take the high road, and the guys who would actually oblige her, she's quiet as a church mouse.
The childish ones.
The emotional ones, the erratic ones, like she is. She doesn't have a lot to say about them.
But she did run into the wrong Eastern European to try that shit with. A guy who couldn't have had more than 3 or 4 fights at the time that he sparred her and he knocked her on her ass.
Artur Amatovs, who retired from the sport of boxing with just a handful of fights and never made it to world level.
Didn't compete as a 140, 147 pounder, a junior middle, or a middleweight. This is a guy who campaigned at 135. He packed a big enough punch to sit her on her back pocket, and she wants to keep playing these games.
Didn't learn her lesson in using societal norms to exploit the situation that Rolly, Tio, they're not at liberty to tell you to shut your fucking mouth, or they're gonna shut it for you. Society would frown upon that.
Think that you're big and bad by pouncing on a 40-year-old Pilates instructor with only 7 fights.
That you can pop shit to men, and you know what? The men aren't liking it. It's costing her supporters, though, as always. Clarissa Shields is her own worst enemy. She gets in her own way.
She always has.
To a lot of guys, who are the biggest consumers of boxing anywhere in the world, she just looks like a little chihuahua barking from behind a fence, to where if it opened, and these guys were actually allowed to unload on her,
Wouldn't even be right.
but it would be what she's been asking for.
You know the old saying, be careful what you wish for, because one day you just might get it.
The way boxing's been moving lately, bro, you are going to destroy this sport for the next generation. Now, I'm not talking about this generation like 2 years from now. I'm talking about 10, 15 years from now. If they keep doing what they're doing, there will be no generation 10, 15 years from now, bro. You're going to have no stars at all, because already I'll go to the casino and look to ask them for a boxing fight and be like, the guy in Florida before I left, I forgot which fight I was trying to ask about, and it wasn't on the schedule. It was a pretty good fight. And the guy's like, I was like, why is this fight not on the schedule? On your board. He goes, dead sport, brother. He goes, boxing's a dead sport. Oof. You know, now may not be dead to us. Obviously, there's plenty of money and the networks pay for it. But bro, it doesn't get any mainstream attention anymore. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? So you keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna just keep tossing dirt over that gravesite over there.
So what are they doing, Paulie? I'll tell you what they're doing. They're compounding upon an already existing problem where boxing has become so expensive to put on and so expensive to watch, it's not drawing any eyes to it. You're expecting people to climb over paywall after paywall to see fighters that either underperform or just aren't popular enough to go through that much trouble.
It's too much of a hassle. It's too expensive.
The gradual erosion of boxing's core audience all begins with the sport's migration from terrestrial television to premium cable networks, as everybody didn't have premium cable. Some people just had basic, and others didn't have cable at all. They were just watching terrestrial channels.
But this didn't happen right away. It happened gradually, over many, many years. And as the sport became more expensive to watch, the audience that watches it got smaller.
I think boxing is now more expensive to watch than it's ever been. So now you're asking yourself, why did it get more expensive? It's the fighters and their managers. They have too much autonomy, too much ability to waste people's time, waste people's money, ask for the moon and the stars, and fail to deliver.
There's a lot of guys on pay-per-view now. They shouldn't be there.
And why are they?
Money. They want more money than any given platform is willing to put up. So to try to get them that money, they put them on pay-per-view.
If you're worth what you're asking for, you can get the rest of the money you want that way, and that seldom ever works out.
All it really does is make boxing too expensive to watch for the casual observer, to the point where there is no casual observer.
To the point where the only audience members left are die-hard boxing fans, hardcores that are going to make that effort, but most people won't. So you don't get the same spillover that you used to in previous eras of boxing, as well as the transitional change from terrestrial television and cable networks to streaming.
It's made everything very niche, compartmentalized, to where nobody's flipping through the channels anymore.
So when you see these bleeding hearts, these activists, these big advocates for the fighters, arguing what the fighter is worth.
Oh, he should get this and he should get that.
They're part of the problem. They don't know it because they don't care enough to give it a look. They just want to look like they're on the right side of history. None of it is hard to understand. The audience that consumes the sport got smaller because consuming it became more expensive. So if the goal here is to find a solution to bring this sport back to the mainstream, that would have to be accessibility.
You need to make the sport accessible again to as many people as possible to repair boxing's ozone.
Because it now has things to compete with that it didn't have to compete with before. Entertainment mediums have changed. People aren't gathering in front of the television anywhere near as much as they used to in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. Their faces are glued to their phones, watching TikTok reels and Instagram reels of cats.
Frightened monkeys.
What passes for entertainment in this era is a lot different than what it used to be.
But the driving force is still accessibility. It costs you nothing to download YouTube that actually has movies on demand that you can watch free of charge. It costs you nothing to download Instagram and TikTok that not only gives you something to watch, but people to interact with. Whereas boxing
is playing hard to get, and it has been for years, where it's hard to want.
Never mind the decline of the American boxer.
As that is a separate conversation. These guys are not as ambitious. They don't have the same morale and drive of their predecessors. American boxers seem more distracted than most.
So when the characters are not that compelling, and even the ones that are tucked away behind a paywall, this is what you get.
Zuffa seems to have the right idea, though. Believe it or not, Zuffa is taking steps in the right direction. You'll notice that Ryan Garcia versus Conor Benn is not hidden behind a paywall. It's not a pay-per-view, at least not in America. If you have a Paramount Plus subscription,
which 79 million people do,
you can watch that fight. And Paramount Plus, as a streaming platform, is relatively inexpensive, less expensive than watching boxing on DAZN.
That's a step in the right direction, to allow people to come back to this sport without having to give a pint of blood.
To a lesser extent, what DAZN has been doing with TNT as a platform, the basic cable network, sharing certain boxing matches 4 to 5 times a year to diversify the audience. You're going to have some that watch it via DAZN and others that watch it on TNT. That helps also. Having the sport across several platforms, which provides more ways for an observer to bump into it. Because just on DAZN, you can only advertise your content to the people that are already subscribed to you. But what about the ones that aren't?
How the fuck would they know what you're showing?
To answer Paulie's question, how do you bring boxing back to the mainstream? You make it accessible again. Because if you go back in time to previous eras of boxing when the sport was mainstream, bigger than it is now, it was on terrestrial television, accessible to almost anyone. Get rid of the prima donna boxers, starve them out if you have to.
Don't cave into their financial demands because fighters come and go. They rise and fall like the wheat. Today's hot button topic,
hot to trot fighters today, tomorrow become yesterday's news. The Charlos are a perfect example of that. Demetrius Andrade, so don't cave into their demands.
That's been a big part of the problem the last 10, 15 years of boxing.
You've got B and C tier fighters making demands like they are A-listers. That has always been something you have to earn. It's not sustainable in any other form.
And so the answer is accessibility. The powers that be, the people in the industry, they have to find a way to make this sport accessible again. Because for the longest time, they've been doing the opposite.
And a good example of what I've been talking about for the last 6 minutes is David Benavidez. This guy's been on pay-per-view at least 5 or 6 times now.
And not once have you ever heard it said that he brought in 1 million pay-per-view buys or even half that number, which begs the question, if he can't, then what is he doing there?
It would have serviced Showtime and the higher-ups there a lot better if his fight with Caleb Plant and Demetrius Andrade were billed as a regular fight as part of a regular schedule, because on a Saturday, that could have actually brought 1 million viewers to the platform. Not 1 million pay-per-view buys,
but 1 million eyes still. And that would have been worth something to the higher-ups at Showtime.
What about his financial demands?
What about him? Get real. Get fucking real.
People in the industry gotta crack the whip, I'm telling you. Though it would seem that David Benavidez is slowly coming to his senses as he has reportedly begun talks to face the winner of Jai Opetaia versus Noel Mikaelian.
Huzzah!
With the American set to defend his WBA and WBO cruiserweight titles against the hard-hitting Polak Mikaelian in December.
That's gonna be a pay-per-view.
And I say that he might actually be coming to his senses because he's got to know in the cruiserweight division, which most Americans don't watch, there are not a lot of marquee names there.
You don't have an abundance of options as a cruiserweight to play the waiting game.
Waiting for the right fight at the right time to roll around. There's only one guy worth any money in the cruiserweight division, and that's Jai Opetaia, only because TKO and Zuffa Boxing back him.
I can't put an exact number on what David Benavidez has been making per fight ever since he debuted on pay-per-view.
Though whatever he's been making, I know he's not happy with it because just the other day, he was on some Spanish podcast complaining that Conor Benn was given $15 million for a Regis Prograis fight. You're not going to see Canelo Alvarez complaining about what some other guy is getting for some other fight. You didn't see Terrence complaining.
After he beats Errol Spence Jr., after he jumps into bed with Turkey El Sheikh.
You don't see Anthony Joshua complaining. You don't see Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk complaining. Why? Because they're swimming in it. They're not worried about what Conor Benn got for a fight, but David is, because David likely hasn't made real money yet.
But he's been on pay-per-view 5 times.
No, but just the act of being on pay-per-view doesn't mean you're making big money. It means you're trying to. But it's all going to boil down to how many of those pay-per-views you can sell.
So how many do you think he sold with Caleb Plant after Canelo knocked him out, with Demetrius Andrade, who's never been a big draw?
Nondescript Cuban fighter in David Morrell didn't have that many fights, not that much time in, no real following.
Anthony Yarde.
How many pay-per-views do you think that he sold with those fighters? With Zurdo Ramirez, who was even more popular than those guys, though not popular overall, just more than them.
And how many do you think he's gonna sell with Cieslak?
Wake up and smell the illegal stream, folks. Pay-per-view is not for fighters like David.
Ryan Garcia is more popular in this country than David. His next fight's not a pay-per-view. Conor Benn is more popular in the UK than David is here. Same deal.
So why should you have to pay extra to see him? It just doesn't make sense. His best bet at getting at a big bag at this point as a cruiserweight is fighting Jai, whether he likes it or not.
You know he doesn't like it.
But he's got to deal with it. He said he's got one fight left under his existing deal before he enters free agency. Becoming a free agent would allow him to migrate over to Zuffa and make the kind of money that he hasn't been making.
He's got to risk something.
But nothing ventured, nothing gained. Watching the fighters risk their reputations, their records, their health is what has always drawn eyes to this sport.
People ain't paying what they're paying and staying up late till the wee hours of the morning to see you stay busy and play it safe.
You gotta risk something.